Lawrence. Shh.
What?
Duck down, quick.
What?
Don't,
Why?
Don't walk by the window.
What's
Not the
going
light.
on?
I see IATSE.
What? Are they outside?
Hello?
Oh my God. They're knocking.
Yeah, that's a fucking union coming to flip your ass.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's like a horror film.
I know. I mean, it can be scary, but honestly, it's not. This is just part of doing the job.
It is. You've been through it a few times. I've been through it a few times. And our friend, Greg Jones, who is owner EP of a production company called Rukus Films, he's been through it a few times. He's a returning guest on our show. We haven't had many. He was back on, I think, season 1. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to get...
season 1.
Yeah, way back then. Ooh, pandemic days. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to get flipped and how to handle it. Because, yeah, it can be a little intimidating, but honestly...
It can be, but it's not a big deal, y'all.
It doesn't have to be. Take control of the situation. It's fine. They're just doing your job. You're doing your job. And you guys are going to work it out.
Grab a drink and stick around for this episode.
Welcome to the Producers Happy Hour with your hosts, Sister Christian and Lawrence Lewis.
We're 2 producers with over 20 years of experience each, chatting over drinks about what it means
and what it takes to be a good producer.
Join us for insightful interviews and informative show topics that will help you get through your toughest jobs,
biggest production challenges,
and most difficult clients. So grab a drink.
You're going to need it.
And let's get to it.
Because making shit
is hard.
Sister Christian... It's been one of those rare times when I actually haven't spoken to you for a couple of weeks.
I know, it's been forever.
How are you? How are you doing?
Okay. I'm on a pretty intense job that goes out of the country. So, it's just kind of one of those things. And I would like to put in a show topic now for when I get back about how many days should you charge for a job when you've worked double the days out of,
oh my God. I mean, that's like an age-old problem, right? Mm-hmm, that's one of the big complaints a lot of production folks have is all the free days that we put in on a job, especially producers.
Exactly. And we don't have a union
we don't have a union. Right. Mm-hmm. And speaking of unions...
Here we are.
That's the topic of the show today, right? Getting flipped. And for our younger professionals out there, what that means is you're producing a non-union job and the unions find out about it and they pay you a visit on set. Why is this a problem? Because if you're filming in LA, chances are you have some union crew members on your set. We don't have a big pool of non-union talent here in Los Angeles like New York does, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a different ballgame in New York, for sure. Union locals like Local 52 will ban their members for working non-union. It is instilled in them. When you're in New York working union or non-union, it's a very segregated crew. So if you do non-union work in New York, all the people on your set are definitely non-union. So most of the time.
Most of the time. And that's the right way to do it. You can't really do that here. There just isn't the talent, especially when, from the DP down, it's like, oh, well, we want this, really great DP. Well, the entire crew's going to be union. So, look, we fully support working union. We support not working non-union. We do both as producers. That's why we're line producers. We sit on the line. We aren't signator. We're not covered by a union. We just execute the job that's handed to us. So what happens is when we get asked to do a non-union job and they want to shoot somewhere like Los Angeles and have a big name DP on it, it's kind of our responsibility to let the company know that they risk getting flipped.
Exactly. And then there are some precautions that you can take, which, whether we get into that or not is a different story. I just feel that in LA, it's super hard to work non-union unless your entire crew is non-union.
Exactly. So we're chatting today with a returning guest, Greg Jones from Rukus Films, who has been through this process. We got some tips for y'all to how to handle it. Both how to handle it with a production company, how to handle it with a crew, and how to handle it when the union reps pay you a visit and get you through it.
Yes, it can be frustrating, it can be scary, but honestly, it's just about information and knowledge.
Exactly. Hey, Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, Greg, what's up?
Hey, guys. Wow, I even get fake applause even.
You even get fake applause, canned laughter.
We have a
live studio audience. You just can't see them. Greg, welcome to the show. Hey, are you, by any chance, enjoying happy hour with us today? Are you having a drink with us?
I have a water bottle next to me. That's fine.
Good.
Yeah.
LA's finest.
Yeah.
Well, we missed dry January, but in honor of that month and our non-drinking friends out there who are listening, I'm enjoying a mocktail. It's Seedlip Spice and Tonic. Seedlip is a non-alcoholic spirit. And so this drink is 2 ounces of Seedlip Spice, 94, tonic syrup to taste, tonic water to taste, star anise. And if you have a cinnamon stick, enjoy it with a cinnamon stick. I don't. I just have a little cinnamon sprinkled inside.
Yes, and I'm also enjoying a non-alcoholic drink in the form of a weed drink called by Wonder, which is a grapefruit hibiscus flavored weed tonic.
Yes, it's a great substitute for dry January.
I was out with my wife last week, and a mocktail was $17 at a bar.
I know. That's the thing. It's like, I'll just take a water then at that point.
What neighborhood were you in?
I did Los Feliz, so nothing, nothing too, yeah.
Perfect.
Of course.
West Side says it all. Okay, let's dive in. But first, if you don't want to miss our latest episodes and you want to stay current on industry news and get all the links and resources that we chat about on the show, plus get our delicious cocktail recipes, then join our listeners' newsletter.
Oh, Christian, not another email list.
I know, I hear you. We love spam. No, we don't.
Oh, no.
Don't worry, we're not going to spam you. We don't have time for that shit. You'll just get a couple of emails from us, full of great info. So sign up at producershappyhour.com.
All right. Let's get into it. Greg Jones was a freelance line producer for over 15 years and started his own production company, Rukus Films, with some very talented directors in 2020. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Why don't you start a little bit by telling us about Rukus Films? We know it started around the pandemic time, but what kind of work do you do? What's going on with Rukus these days?
Yeah, right. I mean, right around COVID, the perfect timing, right?
Yeah, right.
It's a small roster of comedy directors. JJ Adler's, she's a co-owner and one of the, top female comic directors, and kind of, just decided to do our own thing after, being everywhere for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the smart move.
And what type of work?
It's all branded content, commercials, client direct stuff, but, we don't chase that too hard with, but, agency directed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Music videos, like anything under film.
I haven't really done any music videos.
Oh.
Even though I grew up doing music videos forever, and I have a huge love for them, but just not.
Love-hate is what I have for them. Sordid past.
It's not exactly the moneymaker anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
I missed it by like 10 years, I think. We wouldn't be talking if I would have been doing music videos 10 years earlier than
I remember I did the one Jennifer Lopez video that was $450,000 at the time. Yeah, it was like her low budget video.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're not that anymore either.
I was on the LL Cool J video. That was actually the first music video to flip. All videos used to be non-union, and then everyone walked off my LL Cool J video, and they became union.
After it all flipped, I was on the first video or PM to the first video in New York that was union. And I remember Phil Sod was my key grip, and he was just like, "This is it. It's all over. Now we're doing videos. Everything's going to be union from now on." I was like, "Sure, Phil, no problem." Well, that said, let's talk about getting flipped. Walk us through your first, the first time it happened to you.
I guess, the first time was the LL Cool J music video, and all the unions showed up at lunch.
What town were you in?
I was in LA. We were shooting at the W in Westwood, and we had, took over the place. It's huge. They just showed up at lunch and said, basically, if we don't sign the agreement, they're going to all walk off. Called, HSI at the time was the company, and called the EP, and he's like, "Oh, you absolutely can't sign anything." And they bailed and they left us. It was a 3-day shoot. It was they came at lunch at day 3. So everyone walked off. Some key crew members who I won't name, but they had to change their outfits and get in a pass van and disguise themselves. And they came in.
No way.
Maybe 15% of the crew who had like a vested interest in making sure we finished. And then we shot. PAs were breaking down the grip things, and it was a nightmare. We were just scrambling to get bodies in. Hey, can you just come help wrap? And wrap crews wouldn't come in, and it was a nightmare.
Wow,
that sounds horrible, especially when you have a celebrity on set.
Yeah, it was. Then at the end of the night, LL Cool J made everybody stay at like a 22-hour day, and everybody's just dying. And he had to give a speech, and he took everyone's personal information because he was going to send them a gift because how awesome, but no one ever got through.
Did you have any inkling that this was going to happen?
Nothing at all.
Nobody warned you.
No warning, no nothing.
And music videos back then, as you said, were non-union, right? And,
they were all non-union.
So there was no need to have that conversation with your crew. Like if you were on a commercial, right? Like, hey, this is non-union. What would you do? So have you been flipped on a commercial?
I have been flipped on a couple commercials.
And so when that happens, when you're setting up a non-union commercial, and, sister, I know you've got your own experience in this too, but like, do you prep your crew? Do you talk to them about the fact that, hey, we're doing a non-union commercial and what those implications are?
Well, it's kind of weird, right? Because you're not allowed to really ask people if they're in the union in California. Is that still...
Yeah, that's what I thought. When Christian and I were prepping the show, we chatted about this. You definitely cannot ask them in right-to-work states. Christian, is that right?
You can't ask them in right-to-work states because you cannot hire or based on whether their union status. But it was always my understanding that you could in LA, but I'm not sure. So I'll refer to y'all on
we'll
that
have
one.
to look, we'll have to look up that up.
Yeah, totally.
LA is so much harder to do it than anywhere else because, like, at least in New York, I feel like you have your union, you have your non-union. I've never had a problem. In LA, you're shooting one day with the union crew and the next day with the non-union. It's the same exact guy.
Exactly.
So it's rough.
That I agree with.
A lot rougher in LA than I think anywhere else.
I feel like that is because Local 52 has a lockdown on so many different, like out here, grips are different, electrics are different, props are different. Everyone's a different union. Where in New York, there's one Local 52 that has a lockdown on everybody, and you're absolutely forbidden to do non-union. So nobody from Local 52, you'll never find somebody on your set who's Local 52 if you're doing a non-union job. So it's actually easier to do a non-union job in New York, in my opinion.
Exactly. I tell people that all the time. They're like, no, you're crazy. I'm all, no, trust me. It really is.
Yeah, it is. There's actually a really big non-union community out there that are very talented. The talent pool is great.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, sometimes they command more than street rates.
Makes sense because they don't get the health care, they don't get the
specialty
pension. And yeah, exactly.
And I have friends, that have union positions, and they tell me we don't get in trouble as long as we call it in. Like there's certain unions in LA that'll let their crew do non-union, but they want them to actually call the union if they're on the job, which is
interesting. Mm-hmm.
So as a line producer, where you're not officer of the company, like you wouldn't be able to sign a union contract. What's your responsibility? Let's say the EP isn't there, you're on set, the union shows up. What's the line producer's role in all of this?
You know what? I've gotten busted both ways. I think as a line producer, all you can do really is call the company and see what they want to do. Because, ultimately it's their money. And sometimes, it'll buy you a little time because you can say, if you're on your last shot or something, or you're going to move, you can get away with, I can't get a hold of we're just waiting on the EP, something like that. The key is to get it contained to not let the Teamsters call everybody else in. So whatever that's paramount. Because you're going to pay someone, you might as well just try to get someone to sign the one off and not have it escalate. Because if it escalates and, more time and money and all that fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about one-offs, because there was a time when we could actually sign just a one-off agreement directly with the union. But then once the national contract came about, that all went away. You're either a union company or you're not. So when you say one-off, was that back in those days, or is that, or do you have a different explanation of that?
No. Yeah, it was back when you can just sign an agreement for that job.
So, sister, what happened with you? Tell me about your time that when you got flipped. How did that go down?
Well, so it was on a job where we were filming, a couple of them, actually, different jobs where we were filming the same stage multiple days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the, tips or secrets would be to, if you've got a 2-day shoot and one day is in a house and the other day is in a park, you might skirt by because this is one day. But if you have multiple days on a stage and the unions come down the day one, you gotta fix it.
Yeah.
Every time that I have been flipped in LA, I've been alerted by a crew member. A crew member like looks at you in a very panicked way and says, "Do you have a moment? I need to talk to you over here." Like, okay, so is it the camera break?
Yeah,
is
right.
it union coming down? Like, what's the drama? You have to go boop. What is it? And essentially, it's that they got a text from whatever their local is, and it said, "Hey, are you working on such and such job? If you are, we're coming down at lunchtime." So I will immediately, reach out to IATSE and just start the ball rolling because there's no stopping it.
Right.
You can post up somebody at the stage door and say, "Closed set, nobody allowed on," but eventually you have to leave the building and they're all standing outside waiting on you. Now, you do usually bring them outside, and especially if it's like 100 degrees and you're somewhere in Burbank filming at a stage, just have the chat outside. It gets over pretty quickly because of the heat. Then you start the process of negotiating and figuring out how to work out that particular situation.
Right. And being on a stage is a little trickier because you could be surrounded by union productions and crews know each other and they start talking to each other. And then it's like, oh, this is a non-union shoot. And then that's when
what job are
things
you
go down.
with?
Yeah.
Who's here? Oh, you call it in for me. It all happens.
Exactly. Christian, why are locations always such a hassle in our jobs?
I know. And I get all kinds of jobs. Like, here's one for you. Celebrity interview. Celebrity lives somewhere like Memphis, Tennessee or Minneapolis. So I have to find a location near their house that is for a simple interview, but it still needs to be like a loft type setting. And it needs to be on the first floor versus like on the third floor walk up.
Right.
And the surprise, the budget does not have a proper location scout in the budget.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, I've used marketplace stuff. I've certainly used Airbnb for this, but that can be a time suck, and dealing directly with homeowners is like, no thanks.
It's a nightmare. And like you said, sometimes I get on a job so early, I've got to do some pre-research before I can bring a scout on, or there aren't enough scouting days in the budget.
Guess what? That's your job.
Exactly. And I've used those marketplaces too, but there's like a million steps between us seeing a listing that we think could work, the director loving it, but us actually seeing it in person and booking it and securing it and doing all that. It can just be a nightmare.
Well, drumroll, please.
Yes.
That is where our friends at Ave come in.
Yes. Ave are the first nationwide location scouting company. Ave has a huge private network, and you can save a ton of time and money getting you the perfect location wherever you need it.
Simply fill out a quick form. You'll be paired with an amazing location producer, and you'll receive a curated report with the best location options for your project. From there, they'll handle everything from walkthroughs to negotiating your location agreements and even permitting if needed.
And they'll work seamlessly with you, your location manager, or your production team, whatever you need. There are no upfront costs, and they only get paid if you book the location you need, which is magical.
Amazing. I cannot believe that part. So please save time, money, and your sanity by adding Ave to your producer toolbox. Visit Ave at avvay.com. You're not going to regret it, I promise.
And tell them we sent you. So, Greg, when it happened to you, what was your solution? You just signed a one-off? You've had it several times, so...
Yeah, I mean, it was a little different. I used to have a small service company that used to bottom feed and do, when union companies, they all have their little non-union things because directors want to work and the project's creative. Yeah. It seems like when the unions know that, they're a little bit rougher than when you're just a small, mom and pop or, small company. So it's kind of a different situation when it's the other company, don't tell them it's us or whatever. But
right.
It's all you can do is sign and keep it calm and try to keep it as small as you can. I mean, you can negotiate a bit
can negotiate
just to make it for dues on this particular job and not go and retroactively. If you're not paying union wages, you can negotiate keeping the wages the same. And the 6th and 7th day for your art department stylist, if you've negotiated that, you can most of the time, they just want to get their dues for that particular job, and you don't have to make the whole job retroactively union, which is crazy expensive if that has to happen.
It's the pension, health, and welfare that they want. They want those fringes in their pockets, and they, in my experience, they're there fighting for their brothers where they're union members, their pension, that's what we want to make sure our members get their pension and their health and their welfare. And that's kind of the thing that they've reiterated to me when they're sitting in front of me, telling me I need to sign. But yeah, in my case, I've always been the line producer. So that is, like you said, it is a good way to maybe buy a little time to say, hey, I got to talk to I'm not part of the company. I have to talk to them, and they're flying around the world somewhere. So you got to give me some time. Christian, what happened to you? I know we had a similar way of solving this, what we called a one-off with a company called CMS.
Yeah, you find a company out there who's willing to run the payroll through the unions, which is usually CMS. They charge a fee depending on your budget size, $1,500 to $2,500, I think is the going rate right now. If you're full commercial, it's usually $2,500, and then you avoid having to sign. So that is, economical for some people, but honestly, I don't know of a time, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know of a time when you could ever pass this cost along to the client or agency. You just can't. Like, this is a risk that the company's running, and you have to eat the cost, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, as an EP, I wouldn't even try because it's just like not. I took the job. It's fine. We're responsible for it. We gave you a budget. Not your problem. I've known companies that have went back and tried to, if like time was lost because of all the rigmarole, then they try to get that back from the agency. I think the best thing you can do is like that's the most expensive is the time to just like get it over with, because you're not going to argue your way out of it.
Yeah. And then I just, so the job that I just did that got flipped, everybody was making a wage that was over scale anyway. So we did not have a wage discussion. All we had was the paying P&W on covered positions, which was the big one. We had originally bid 23% P&W because it was summertime. The cost came out to 18% more. So it wasn't actually horrible, but it was definitely around 21 grand, which is hard on the margins that jobs are today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really hard to make up $21,000, I can tell you.
Yeah, back in the day, that was
right. Small penalty to pay, though, considering we did not have to sign.
Considering getting shut down.
Yeah.
So, Greg, when this has happened to you, I know this is people are fearful of this happening. It's kind of seems like a scary thing for a lot of people. But how did the union reps treat you? You hear there's a lot of ideas about what a union rep is going to do to you when they come down to your set. But how did they treat you?
They've always been completely like just pleasant and professional. They're doing their job. They understand. I've had them thank me for not running. Like once we had 4 or 5 locations.
Well, they don't want to run around.
Yeah, I don't want to chase you. Thank you for not making me chase you. It's kind of like getting pulled over by the cops. Be as nice and polite as you can.
It is.
Well, I mean, and I do say that, the John Funduses of the world gave us, such a like that. And then Tommy from the Teamsters in New York. I mean, like they really made like the union rep a very negative experience unless you really knew them. Like I, knew them all well. So I never had a bad experience with them. So when I was flipped out here, it was like I was like, this is so nice.
Oh, you're so friendly.
Yeah.
I was complimenting the art of the production designers union, which I don't know the local, like she came out fabulous, glasses, everything. Yeah. I was like, girl. Yeah. I mean, like I invited them into lunch. They came at lunchtime. I assumed it was because they wanted some lunch.
It's a East Coast, West Coast thing. I think everything's a little bit, little bit more mighty on the West Coast.
More laid back. Yeah. I mean, to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my situation got a little heated because the owner of the company was taking their time they were trying to see if they could stall this out because we only had 1 or 2 more days of shooting, and they were trying to just wait it out. And it's like, they told me, we know where you're shooting tomorrow. We'll see you there. And I'm like, okay, all right. So by the end of the second day, I'm getting texts from one of them. No, they said literally, Lawrence, we can either do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours. And so it's like out of a movie. It was so ridiculous. But yeah, so they were definitely a little spicy.
It was like a dare to me.
It has like a mafia-esque feeling to it a little bit. It's a little bit shakedowny when you get there.
It was a little shakedowny. I'm like, am I going to wake up with a horse head in my bed? My situation did get a little adversarial because I was being a little challenging. Look, when this happened to me, this was right after the stock market crash, the economy crash in 2008. There were no jobs in LA. There was nothing happening. No one was shooting. I got, it was like a 7-day shoot for a financial organization, a federal financial organization. And this happened on the job. So we were like one of the only multi-day shoots happening in Los Angeles, but the company was non-union, small company, single director, blah, blah, blah. And when they came in, they came down and they were gruff and blah, blah, blah. And here I am. Hey, what's up, guys? And I said, look, I know for a fact we're the only big job that's happening in Los Angeles, California. Are you really telling me that after months of not working, you're going to make your guys walk off this job, not get the money that they need to pay their mortgages, feed their families? Like, people are really struggling right now. That's what you'd rather do? You'd rather take them off the job? And they said yes. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Because they wanted what little piece of the pie that
they wanted
was.
The piece of the pie. And rightfully so. Everyone should have pension, health, welfare. All of that stuff, I wasn't arguing against that. I was just trying to like really understand what their motive was and what they would do. And yeah, they said, no, we make them leave the job. I'm like, well, you realize that's worse for them than for this one project to not just complete. We have 3 days left, but that's how that went.
Greg, what are your recommendations for doing a non-union shoot somewhere?
How do you protect yourself?
Avoid LA. Yeah. If you can avoid LA, don't send off a call sheet. If you can avoid a motorhome, don't have a motorhome, because I've literally had jobs called in from not the motorhome driver, but you send the call sheet to the shop, and whoever the guy working the fax machine at the shop wants to get me and calls it in. I had gang bosses drive the people mover on a non-union shoot that called it in because they knew we were going to be shooting it. So, I've had PAs and pass vans call it in because they wanted their days as a Teamster to get in the pass van. So yeah, don't put out a call sheet, I guess, first.
I know, again, it's impossible in LA, but in New York, it used to be if you were on the permit board. So if you applied for a permit to film in, one of the 5 boroughs like that, the unions would just come every day and collect the permits of who's filming.
I don't even know if I should say this. I don't know if it's legal, but we used to say it was, on the permits, we used to say it was an industrial. We wouldn't even say commercial because then sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. If you legally can do that or not, but we used to do it. We used to just say it was photo shoot or a student film or anything but what the word commercial.
But technically you don't have to in New York pull a permit, or you didn't have to unless you were looking to hold parking.
Oh, right.
Otherwise,
I remember that.
To. But if you did not hold parking, then you would have nowhere to fucking park. So there was a catch-22 there.
Yeah, stealing driveways.
There aren't driveways in New York.
Right.
Double parked in the
double
bus
parking.
lane.
Yeah, exactly.
But aren't you guys always on edge like all day? You're just like waiting. It's like a different kind of stress that you're just kind of waiting for it no matter what. Like, at least I was.
I think I was younger in my career. Now that I've been through it, I know what's going on. I know what they're going to do.
It's more like... Yeah, now I'm more like, yeah, we got through the day. Like, I'm genuinely shocked that nobody came down. Like,
I know,
wait a minute, don't they love me anymore? That's how I feel now.
They are visiting a lot more. At least they were around COVID time. SAG was coming out. A lot of them were coming out mainly for health and safety, but a lot more attention was being paid in the past couple of years to sets, especially in Los Angeles. But to your point, Greg, not shooting in LA, it's a little bit of travel, but if the further you get away from a union office, the better you are, right? Like shoot in Orange County, maybe.
Don't even shoot in the Valley. Don't shoot in the Valley.
Don't shoot in the Valley. That's where most of the offices are. And the one I was flipped, we were like down the road from Local 80. So that was definitely a mistake.
Yeah. No, I was just going to, it seems like when it's slower in LA, that's when they come out more. Like if you're busy, it's not, I guess people are busy, but it seems, when it's slower, you're going to have more of a problem.
I think that's true. I mean, like I got flipped over this summer when it was super busy, but like I said, we were 5 days on a stage. So we were just begging for somebody to come flip us at 5 days on a stage and send out a call sheet.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And you know what else doesn't help is those big yellow signs that we hang everywhere here in Los Angeles. Those signs are just screaming for somebody, come this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was always in the impression that it was private property and that if you were on a stage, you were safe because you could ask them to be removed.
That is absolutely true, 100%. And you can hire security to check off names, to have come in, all of the, yes. However, when you're there multiple days and they can stake out and wait till somebody leaves. And if they see one of their union members leaving, then they've been caught.
Yeah, they can wait right at the gate.
The last time I was flipped, the pressure really came when the unions were texting their own members saying, are you on this job at this location? If I come down and I see you there and you don't walk, get your backpack ready. I mean, all of it was like, all these like scary texts were being sent to these guys. And you know, like at that point, the crew is like going to the producer, oh, do you see this text? I'm like, great. Seems pretty threatening for you. Like, just tell them to come down. I'd prefer not to have this build up. Just like send them down. Let's go.
I got flipped in Boston once, and Boston was just a stupid place to try and do a non-union shoot.
Boston sucks.
Yes. it was not great. And we got my crew got those texts. And when I showed up, they had already set a line that the crew couldn't cross to come to set. So that one was a pretty severe one. So we were literally down. We were not able to start work because they came right at the call time. They set up a not a picket line, but they set up a line that said, members don't cross this line. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So that was a rough one. Did you have any like rough experiences like that? Any confrontation on any of the times?
Never anything, you know. You know, sometimes you wait for the paperwork. You think you're going to get away with it because you're just saying you're waiting. And if you wrap, you're not going to turn it. But they set timers or something. They know.
Machines
fax machines.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. We didn't get the fax. Can you send it again?
Yeah. Stuff like that.
Came through black.
I mean, I've gotten false threats from Fundus in New York about union stuff. But I don't think I've ever done a job in New York where he didn't call me. But nothing, you know.
He just likes to say hi.
Yeah.
He's a friendly guy. He's a friendly guy, you know.
Okay, so knowing what you know now, Greg, for going through all these experiences, what's your advice for producers, production teams, the freelancers out there? How should they handle union reps when they come for a little visit on your set? What are the key takeaways here? Yeah,
I mean, just be as nice as possible. And if it's just the Teamsters, get it signed and done before, because that's when their threats it's usually first the Teamsters. Like, hey, we just got to get our guys paid. If you sign here, we won't call the other 9 or 10 unions. You know, so that's kind of a true thing. So just do it. And then sometimes, like, just for safety, and if you're going to be out on the road and you got big equipment, you kind of want Teamsters there. They're really reasonable. You can call ahead and just like get an agreement just with the Teamsters for that job. And you know, it'll cost a little bit more money, but just because of safety and not having to deal with that hassle, maybe the other ones won't show up. And that's also an option that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, that is true. Some good advice. Christian, do you have any words of wisdom for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm just always super nice and tons of jokes, and also just, you know, like there's always a push from the production company usually to find out who called it in. That way and I just say, you know,
doesn't
this
matter.
Is the risk that you're running. It doesn't fucking matter. It's happened. Let's go. Because you can have the most loyal crew in the world who one of them happens to be on hard times and doesn't have their hours, and they call it in, and you know what? It's just a situation that unfortunately you were a part of. I would say that it's not personal. Like when you get flipped, this is not personal. So just take it aside. It's nothing you did either, unless you're the one who made the phone call. So I would just take it, right? I would just kill them with kindness.
Like it to crew members too, especially like as a live producer. And my dad was Teamster. He was like 30 years on the line at General Motors. I don't begrudge anyone getting health or pension or anything. We got hired to do this job at this price point. You took the job at this price point. There's nothing adversarial or trying to deny you. Okay, we're just both trying to, move on to the next one. So like, don't, it's not us.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. That was a great chat, Greg. Thanks for having some water with us today.
Yeah.
If anyone has any more questions for you or wants to know more about Rukus Films, what's the best way to find you?
It's rukusfilms.com. Just check out the website. Give me my numbers on there. Just give me a call. Chat through anything.
I love it. And Lawrence, how do people get a hold of you too?
Same way, my website, lawrencetlouis.com. Everything's on there. Sister, how about you?
SisterChristianProduces.com.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Producers Happy Hour is brought to you with the help of the handsome Christopher Daniels,
who is a design and branding specialist,
and Brendan Russell at podlad.com, who is our fabulous editor.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to dive deeper, subscribe to our listeners' newsletter. Simply go to producershappyhour.com to sign up.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
enjoy happy hour while you can.
Because making shit is hard.